Hey everybody, welcome to Liberty and EDC. I'm your host Daniel Norman, and we're here with Frank Porter and Tamara Janies. And we had Tamara on a while ago, how some of our mobile home parks are getting bought up by investors, and then we're seeing those investors raise the rates for the people who are renting there, and it puts these people in a really bad situation. So if you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Tamara.
Sure. So I've been working about 3.5 years on this, and Housing El Dorado joined me about 2 years ago, and we have been currently trying to be included on the strategic plan for the county for affordable housing. We're trying to get involved in that. We are asking mobile home residents to write letters to the Board of Supervisors. We have newly elected, part of the board is newly elected. And so we have been speaking previously with John Heidel, and we're getting the other new supervisors more familiar with space rent stabilization and what the challenges are for the residents experiencing this. Since I was here with you last time, we've probably had about 5 more parks that I'm aware of. Now there's others that I'm certain I haven't been notified about, but there are at least 5 others that have fallen to this predatory
Just
situation.
in our county.
Just in our county. And the unfortunate goal seems to be $900 right off the top. So the recent park that fell in El Dorado Hills went from $675 to $900, and that was in less than 6 months.
Now, to some people, they might think, "Oh, that doesn't sound like a whole lot." But fill us in a little bit more about what is the situation? Why is this a problem?
Well, mobile homes were created for affordable housing alternatives. They were never meant to be market rate, and in fact, in the housing element for El Dorado County, it actually states mobile home parks will be maintained as affordable housing and protected as affordable housing. Unfortunately, there is a market trend that is happening across the country, not just in El Dorado County, where investor groups are purchasing the parks. And their goal is from purchase to 3 years to be at market rate and to pull all the utilities that used to be included in the space rent. So the average park in the past was owned by a mom and pop. And those mom and pops felt like this was a community, they protected it, they cared for it. Yes, there were exceptions, there's always exceptions, but that was the general attitude and the general overall view by park owners was this was their little community to protect and take care of. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the park owners started to age out, and then the next generation wasn't interested in continuing. So they started selling them. And unfortunately, the market trend became hot to purchase the park. And when we did the interview prior, you and I spoke about MHU, the Mobile Home University, where Frank Rolfe teaches people for $2,000 how to cheat mobile home residents pretty much out of their home. He even says, we raise the rates to market rate, and if they can't pay, we have them captive. And if they don't pay, in 90 days, we own their home. So one way or another, we get our money. And so this predatory, pervasive attitude is spreading across to all parks, and any park that is owned by a mom and pop currently with a next generation who is uninterested in carrying on the legacy is vulnerable to this. In fact, there was a park up in Pollock Pines that I spoke to about a year ago and said, your park is one of the types that are vulnerable. I'd love to talk to your residents about it. And I did a meeting with the folks, and when they went home, it was, oh no, it wasn't going to affect them. Well, in 6 months, they had a $60 rent increase. Now, just so you know, that seems like nothing to the average person, but most mobile home rent increases prior to these predatory practices were $20 a year, $25 a year, because these folks live on Social Security. These are not people with large 501ks that just decided to downsize. This is what they could afford. And in fact, that's how I made the decision. I became disabled in my late 40s and owned my own home at the time and was having difficulty meeting the rent for that, or the mortgage payments plus maintenance for that, and thought, how can I protect myself the rest of my life with the income I have? And that's when I went into a mobile home park. Well, within 3 months of moving there, I found out about this. So that's what encouraged me to start getting involved.
Yeah. So you guys are working on a county ordinance to help or prevent those rates from just getting increased so bad. Actually, maybe you guys could you tell us again. You told me a story about someone who had their rent raised, and they the contracts you were talking about, and they threatened to
Oh, yeah.
do
Well,
the
so
90
recently,
days.
one park, now legally, mobile home parks are required by law to offer a 12-month lease. Okay, which is fine, because recently a new law was passed in the legislature that is now loosening up this loophole. But previously, any long-term lease over 1 year, if the county then or city picked up a space rent stabilization ordinance, the resident would no longer be eligible for that. In this particular park, not only did they start off every lease with a boxed paragraph that says, if you sign this, you are not eligible for city, county, or state rent protections. First of all, I'm checking into the legitimacy of that, because I don't honestly think it's legal that they can just decide that they don't fall under
Right.
the legislation. Yeah.
Someone can just
The
contractually sign that away.
We're not going to follow the rules. But on top of that, when they sent letters out to these residents after they purchased the park telling them their future lease options, they did not list the 12-month. They started at 5 years, but their goal was 25. And I had lots of phone calls about this. And one of the residents says, well, they didn't offer me a 5-year lease, or a 1-year lease. And I said, then go call the office and ask them for it. And she said, but what if they won't give it to you? And I said, then call me, because it's illegal. They have to offer it to you. So when she was not convinced of the long-term lease, the comment was, well, if you don't sign the long-term lease, we'll just raise your rents every 90 days with a 90-day notice, because legally we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. These folks are older, they're retired. A lot of times they're not tech savvy, they're not, they're retired. They're not wanting to fight. And they get afraid because the management and the park owners, sometimes they're supposed to address the park as a group and have a group meeting in the beginning when they take over parks so they can discuss these kinds of things. They avoid that because it's much easier to conquer by dividing.
Oh.
So then I had residents actually ask for a group meeting. So there's a lot of divisive ways they use to make sure that they use that fear factor to keep them from doing what they don't want them to do, which is becoming informed and just signing a 12-month lease.
Yeah. So tell us about this ordinance you guys are working on, and maybe Frank can jump in here.
Well, I can, but I wanted to, and Tamara's doing a great job of articulating the problem, but just to kind of add to that is the relationship with the mobile home park and the tenant is very different than a normal tenant and landlord relationship, and that is that the tenant owns 99%, 95% of the time, they own the mobile home. So they own that structure. They're paying for the space to place it on and for some of the amenities at the mobile home park. When they fall behind on their space rent and they can't pay it, they don't have the option as a typical tenant would. If you live in an apartment building or something, you can give your notice and say, the rent's too high, I'm going to move out. Well, in the case of a lot of mobile home owner or mobile home park residents, if they default on the payments and they can't make them anymore, they have to they want to move, they have to pay anywhere from $6,000 to $18,000 to have that mobile home moved to a new location, which is for a lot of these people, they don't have a spare $5,000, $8,000, $10,000. So they are kind of locked in, and if they have to walk away, which some of them do, the landlord now owns the mobile home park owner owns that structure and can rebuild it, and it basically has, acquired it because they've forced this tenant out because of rent increases. So it's a very different relationship than a typical landlord-tenant.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important to note too, if someone hasn't been to a trailer park like these, that you hear trailer park and you think, oh well, I mean it's like a house on wheels, right? But it's not. It's just a house that doesn't have a mobile foundation. But
exactly, and they typically sustain quite a bit of damage on movement.
Yeah, they're not easily movable.
No.
Right. So it's a very different relationship, and so it puts the tenant at a very big disadvantage and a very vulnerable spot. And again, that's why they're afraid. The fear level, they're they're on a fixed income, limited income. They don't have much in backup resources. Their rent's going up. If they get forced out, they can't. Their one big asset is their mobile home. They're going to lose that. So it's a very different relationship than a typical landlord-tenant relationship.
Yeah.
Our concern as Housing El Dorado is that our county has an enormous shortfall in affordable housing units.
Right.
In the county now, based on a study that was done in 2019, the county is short about 3,000 affordable housing units. The biggest stock of affordable housing currently in the county is mobile homes. And there are about 4,000, is that the number? There are about 4,000 mobile home units in the county. So that's an enormous block of the affordable housing stock. Every time somebody gets priced out of one of those, we now have another possibly homeless person, and we're making our affordable housing situation even worse.
Yeah. So so these companies, they're trying to take these mobile home spaces and get them up to market value, you were calling it?
Market rate.
Market rate. So if they take it to market rate, then it's no longer considered affordable housing?
Exactly. And so, and that's the other thing we're pointing out to the Board of Supervisors is that
you
your
have
housing
a double
element,
growing problem here.
Yeah, so you have a housing element that relies on mobile homes as part of your affordable housing stock. Well, you're allowing that to deplete out and to decline because of these practices. Now, as Tamara pointed out, it's important, and there are still mom and pop trailer mobile home parks in our county that are run, in a way where it's not. I would not describe it as predatory. The problem is these investor-driven larger entities that are coming in, attempting to jack the rents up very quickly, try to squeeze more money out of them, and try to basically make a quick profit at the expense of these tenants. And we think that's wrong. We think the County Board of Supervisors should take action to have a mobile home protection ordinance to remedy the problem, or at least to start to moderate it so that we don't push more people into losing their homes.
Right. So tell us about this ordinance.
You want to start?
Well, generally, they tie it to CPI. And
What's
Consumer Price Index.
that? Okay.
Usually they tie it to CPI, so it usually ranges in the vicinity of 3 to 4% per year. Then they have some pass-throughs. They do have usually a stipulation that if, per se, a park owner runs into a problem where the sewer system fails, then he could then go and write up, some kind of proposal about what it's going to cost, what the project would be. He could then go to the county at that point, if we had an ordinance in place, and say, I need extra funds
Right.
So those types of rent raises could still be okay. And I have to tell you that the good actors stay in that range. My park owner, for instance, I have never had more than $25 increase per year in the 3.5 years I've been there. But see, that's even $25, because when I first got to the park, it was 15. You wouldn't believe how many residents came to me when it hit 25. Because you have to understand, with their budget, they're also paying for their homeowners insurance. They're paying, if they have a manufactured home, they're paying secured property tax. If they have an older mobile home, they're paying DMV registration fees for it. We have to maintain it, and we have to maintain it per the MRL, which is the mobile home residency law, which the park owners can enforce. So if you want to sell your home and it isn't up to the standards that are in the mobile home residency law, the park owner can actually require that prior to sell, that everything in the mobile home be up to par with the requirements. So we have a different relationship. We have to, we paint them, we repair them. The plumbing goes bad, the electric goes bad. That's all on us. So the expense involved is a little higher. And most people that have bought these homes have looked at the space rent, looked at their bills, looked at their income, and said, okay, I can do this. And I can do this in a reasonable manner. Well, when you start to see, like in some of these parks, the one I was talking about recently, in 6 months, they went up $225.
Wow.
Now, they didn't do that to the existing residents, but they did it to anybody walking in the door. So their neighbors paying $675, they're paying $900. I actually had someone show up at a meeting at the El Dorado Hills one, who decided not to buy in the park after she heard what we had to say about it, because she was surprised herself at the $900 price tag. Because, mobile home people talk to each other about what they're paying. And she had heard that it was much lower from someone, and then she walks in the door and the new owners are like, here's a happy 25-year lease and a $900 space rent payment. Now, some of the homes have gotten to the point where they're almost in value of $200,000. So people are also paying mortgages on top.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So how is this ordinance supposed to protect these people living in the parks?
It's supposed to limit the rent raises to within the CPI range.
Okay.
And then they have other stipulations, but those are kind of modified and adjusted per county and city that adopts it. So they have, our area would be geographically a little different than, say, LA. So their ordinances will have some differences, but basically it falls along the lines of CPI. It makes them stay along the MRL rules and guidelines, which they have to do anyway. But for a park resident to go against that, that can be a challenge as well.
Yeah, and basically this ordinance that we're proposing, and again, it's yet to be developed. There are lots of models for it, and as Tamara mentioned, there are different ordinances for different counties. They vary. But essentially, it's to control the bad actors. For the mom and pop mobile home park owners, they won't see much difference. I mean, there's the restrictions that are placed in this ordinance will be entirely acceptable. They're not something that are extraordinary. They're not something that is, a burdensome thing. So what we're trying to do is to come up with a good ordinance that will effectively control for the exorbitant rent increases and put a stop to this kind of predatory landlord behavior or mobile home park owner behavior, limited to really a few of them, not all of them.
So where are we at with the ordinance?
Well, we're proposing it, and
Okay.
we are urging the county to think about how to solve this problem, because on the one hand, as I mentioned before, we have an enormous shortfall in affordable housing in our county, and that has huge impacts for our economy, because you talk to business people who own businesses, and that their employees who often are earning, it costs right now $28 for the average apartment and 2-bedroom apartment in El Dorado County is $1,428. That's the average. So you need to be earning about $28.30 approximately per hour to be able to afford an apartment like that.
Wow.
So what we're saying is that for people who want to own businesses, and again, I've attended forums with and listened in on forums that the business community has put on, and they will tell you they can't expand their businesses in some cases because their workers cannot afford to live here. And so we are creating a damper on business activity and business growth in our county. And you talk to business owners, you talk to the people in the winery business, they will tell you this, that we need more affordable housing. And so we've got to stop losing affordable housing and protect the mobile home stock, if you will, and at the same time build more affordable housing units in order to get caught up on this.
Okay. So what needs to happen for this ordinance to basically become a thing in El Dorado County?
The Board of Supervisors, by ordinance, can pass an ordinance and approve it and put it into effect.
Okay.
So it's in their jurisdiction to do so, and we're encouraging them, and we would like to ask that all mobile home park owners, that mobile home owners, not the park.
Mobile home residents.
Residents, that they send a letter into the Board of Supervisors before March 16th, when a hearing's going to be held on their affordable housing strategic plan, urging that they take steps to protect mobile home park residents from exorbitant rent increases.
Now,
Or they can email as well. And they have to, if they want to find out their district, they can call 530-621-5390. But also if they go on to the board website, it has each board member's email listed on there and a link to it. So they can just shoot an email. They don't have to send it to their district. If they don't want to go to that effort, they can just send it to Board of Supervisor 1, and he'll make sure it gets into the file.
Okay, great. And even if someone's not a mobile home owner, they're just a resident here in El Dorado County, and this is something they care about, or if they have, maybe a family member who lives here, can they
Absolutely.
send stuff to you?
I've had several relatives of people call me up. One just recently, he was a realtor, and he called me up out of the El Dorado Hills Park and said, I read through this, and there is absolutely no advantage for my aunt to sign this. And then I saw your name in this letter, and I'm thinking, maybe I should ask you. And I said, yes, you're correct. There is no advantage for your family to sign this letter. He sent letters, realtors who understand the market. We'd love for them to send letters in because then that explains what they're facing. My ex-sister-in-law is a realtor. She deals with mobile homes. She sells them. And she said, I feel so bad for these people. They're scared and they don't know what to do and they can't afford it. And so, people that understand what's happening, or they are friends or relatives or people who are scared and experiencing this, absolutely. Because the board really needs to understand that this is a fear-driven situation for vulnerable people. And that they know this. They know that these people won't rise up very often by themselves because of fear. And they count on it. And if we get the residents to roar, then they'll understand what these residents are dealing with. Because I get phone calls all the time with people saying, I just got another rent raise. I figured out my bills. I have to drop my homeowner's insurance. I have $14 left for groceries for the rest of the month.
Yeah, that's no good.
And and where are they going to go? Here's the other. There is no place for them to go. There is no option.
So why is it so important for people to send those emails in and contact our board of supervisors?
to let the Board of Supervisors know how many people are truly being affected by this. That's what they need to understand. Because of the fear factor, and because of COVID, we haven't been able to get in front of the Board of Supervisors physically.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I have done a campaign for the last month and a half trying to get folks to send in letters, and I've read them, and they are so impactful. And I've spoken to at least one of the Board of Supervisors who's read quite a few of them, and he is just shocked by them. And that's what we need to do. We need to shock them. We need to make them understand that this is important. And if they don't protect these folks, then instead of dealing with this and an ordinance, they're going to be dealing with them on Main Street and Broadway. There's their choices, because they have no place else to go. If you're looking at the Section 8 program in El Dorado County, you're looking at 8 to 10 years on that list.
Wow.
And they haven't opened that list, just so you know, since 2016.
Oh, wow. Dang.
So you can't even get on the list yet.
Yeah.
So that's just the issue right there, is we've got a lot of senior people living in these places. We've got disabled. We have veterans. We have people that have low income. And these people have to be protected because we have a shortage already. And then we're going to send these folks to the streets if we don't protect them. Because I already had somebody that is actually not one of the lowest income in the El Dorado Hills Park call me up and say, Tam, 2 years I'm done. With the increases we're seeing, 2 years I'm out. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And this is a person who's in his 70s whose working life is over. So how does he increase his income to be
Right.
able to afford their increased rents?
So remind us again, where can people go to let their voice be heard about this issue?
Okay, you can go to the Board of Supervisors website. There's links to all 5 boards of supervisors. You can reach out to me. My name is Tamara. My phone number is 530-391-1423. My email address is J as in Jack, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, I as in Ida, E as in Edward, S as in Sam, @comcast.net. And I'll be happy to forward any emails to the boards of supervisors.
Great. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add before we close out here?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much for making time today
Yeah,
to do this.
thank you
Yeah,
so much,
thanks so much for
Daniel,
coming
again.
on.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right. So thank you for coming in. Again, this is Tamara, remind me of your last name again. Janies. I always say it wrong. And Frank Porter. And this has been Liberty and EDC, and we'll see you guys next time.